Decision Diaries.
Welcome to Decision Diaries. Today on Decision Diaries, we are talking to someone who makes a lot of, you want to call them emergency decisions. So welcome back, Jason Chang.
Hi there. Thank you for having me again.
Not everybody has what it takes be in emergency medical services and be an EMT, I guess you would call it, or EMS person. I don't know what you call them.
EMTs will be an okay description to us. There's 2 levels, whereas there's technically 3 levels, but in Florida, there's 2 levels of being an EMS personnel. So there's EMT dash basic, which is your basic EMT levels that people know about. And then there's EMT paramedic, which is usually shortened to paramedic or medic. And I am now a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for at least 10 years now, apparently. Been in the whole EMS game since 2012, so a little longer than a decade now. So that's always kind of surprising for me to realize that I've been in this field for this long.
Yeah. So what interests you in this field?
Wow, that's quite a story there, actually. So, man, I feel like first aid has been a thing in my past for a while. Mostly because I kept injuring myself a lot in middle school, and to the point where these injuries weren't like major. Like it was mostly like like scrapes or cuts or broken nails and all that stuff, and nothing like broken bones. And all I needed was a basic Band-Aid, right? The problem is that the schools that I attended, the school nurse was never there, so we were kind of left to fend for ourselves. So at one point, I was like, well, forget that. I'm just going to start packing my own first aid supplies. And what began as a simple little case full of Band-Aids started growing rapidly because I was known to be the guy to always have those supplies, and to the point where teachers would start looking for me and sending people my way. So my simple kit grew into like a larger first aid kit that I got from Walmart, and then it kind of grew bigger and bigger as time went along, as more people just kept saying, no, just go to Chang. He's got all the supplies and he'll take care of it. Don't even walk all the way down to the hallway to the school nurse who may or may not be there. Chang is there. He's got it in his backpack. Go get it from him. So
wow. Yeah.
It's always been a thing for me to always have that. So so the natural progression of coming into an EMT life just kind of made sense.
I guess other people's blood never bothered you.
No.
When I think about being a medic and I think about, things that you can see, and we're going to get, I mean, really, we're going to get into some, hopefully some good stories about some graphic things that you've seen. You have to be able to look at those things and obviously not faint. So, and you obviously have to be a caring person and be ready to calm someone down who is, really, really hurt. I would imagine distract them in some way. So, okay. So wait, this started, what year was this? When you were in 7th grade, 8th grade?
Yeah, I think it's 7th grade. So let's see, I graduated from Donut Cookman back when it was still just a middle school in 2006. So let's say 2005. This is when all this started happening. It was around 7th grade that I started doing this. I guess also my parents' decision to send me to Donut Cookman because they had a medical magnet program. I think it was just starting there. So we were enrolled in that. I guess they were hoping that I would become a doctor with that.
Right. I mean, I think, not everybody is born to be a doctor. There are all kinds of things that you can do in the medical profession that are needed and, that are very important. So not everybody can be a doctor or surgeon, right?
I don't have it in me to be a doctor or a surgeon. Not because it's the gruesome part gets to me. It's the amount of school. I've never been a fan of school for a while, so I feel like my parents, they for being from a Chinese background, they had this great hope that I might go in the medical field and make a lot of money. I feel like by choosing this direction, not so much, because you don't go into EMS to make money. This is unfortunately not a place to where they do that, where you don't you don't become rich off of this job, and I don't think that's where you're meant to. I mean, I wish that we could, but this is definitely
Right.
something that you chose knowingly that you're not going to make a lot of money in, which is unfortunate. But
No, I would say you probably, it sounds like, you just had a natural instinct, and obviously you saw the need for someone to always be around you prepared and be able to administer medical help. But the other thing is, do you think you decided to be a medic because every day could be different?
oh yeah, 100%. Everything can be different. I mean, I've worked in both in like emergencies rooms and also on ambulances as well. And even in the emergency room where you think you go into the same workplace, like imagine going to your office place and work in the same job because it's the same building. Is I never had one day that was like the other. Uh, it's always different. You have no idea what you're going to see, and uh, and it's just you just can't plan ahead, which is kind of cool. uh,
Right, right. I mean, well, you know what really is interesting to me about this. So in college, we had to take a course. I don't know when they required this. I don't think they require this anymore, but I had to take a course on how to triage, like a first aid course, and I do think I got some kind of weird certificate. I don't know. I
oh, that's really
my guy
cool. Yeah.
yeah, my guidance counselor made me take this class, and it was a pretty intense class, and our final was coming across a car accident and having to triage multiple victims.
Oh wow.
And so, I mean, that's not like a typical first aid class. That is a serious, intense. I remember we received some type of certificate, and they told us to keep, you know, a first aid kit in our car, that we were now certified that if we were to see somebody on the side of the road, we should go ahead and stop and help them. And I thought it was incredibly interesting. I mean, I loved it. One of the reasons I loved it is because you have to make assessments and quick decisions, and it is a fast-paced environment. And so when we were taking this final, they had some people, they had different sort of mannequins lying around, and then they had some actors that were kind of just distracting you with things that weren't as important. Right? So as you came upon the scene, you had somebody that was kind of talking to you like, I'm hurt," but then
Right.
you had to focus while this distraction was going on. I did surprisingly really well for somebody with ADHD. I actually did really well, and I think part of that is when the emergency-ness kicks in, and I'm not looking around or waiting for somebody to make a decision, and all the decisions are sort of based on my assessment of taking in information. I was able to do it really quick. So, I administered CPR. I made sure I didn't move somebody whose spine may have been twisted. There were a couple of things they set up. And then with the other person sort of talking in my ear, I was just kind of like, yep, you are bleeding. Yep, got it. But you're not bleeding in a way that you're about to pass out. Let's sit down. Let's go ahead. Let me triage these other people. So the whole idea was you were at that scene all by yourself. So talk to me about what you had to go through. And then, like in real life, have you had to do something like that?
So first of all, that program sounds incredible for you said high school?
Well, no, it was college, and
Oh wow.
I wasn't studying the medical profession. And it was just a college course as one of my electives. I guess my guidance counselor was directing a lot of people to it. We also had to um, you know, understand bear attacks. I don't know I don't know why they were emphasizing bear attacks, but they were showing us, different pictures of bear attacks, which is
Where
really kind of funny because I mountain bike and, knowing what I know about bear attacks, I still mountain bike. I'm like, "Whatever." I'm like, "Whatever."
I mean, here in Florida, I grew up in Florida, so we were all taught how to run away from a gator, and we know not to run in a straight line and to run zigzags.
Yeah,
Uh,
isn't that
and that
crazy?
was such common knowledge for us. And when people from up north started hearing, they started making memes about it. It's like I bet you know how to run from a gator. It's like, okay, I don't know where you're coming up with that, but yes, we did learn how to run from gators. I think it's
Yeah, they did go over, like,
regional. You know?
they did go over shark bites. They did go over shark bites because, obviously understanding how to triage a leg and, how to make sure that you're kind of stopping that bleeding and that type of stuff. So, I know we're gonna get all kind of gory, but, like, what is one of those that you came upon and you were like, this is weirdly kind of cool. Like I'm assisting this person and this is crazy.
So the really gory stuff is actually the most easiest ones to handle, in
Really?
my opinion, um,
Mhm.
because it's pretty straightforward and straight cut. Like somebody, a car falls, a tree falls on your car, and the guy's ankle is like hanging loose from the impact, and you look at it as like that sucks, that hurts, that's a lot of blood, um, and he's in a lot of pain. Okay, cool. Let me just hold on to this ankle so it doesn't completely fall off. Put a splint on it, bandage it up, and transport it, and make sure that it doesn't get worse. It's pretty straightforward. The more harrowing calls that we have, like I believe, are the ones with more internal. The more like chest pain protocols. If is it a heart attack? Is it a dissection? Breathing problems? Is it caused from an obstruction, or is it an internal thing? Is it more of a genetic thing? These are things that you have to play detective for and try to figure out. So those are the ones that you can't see the injury are the more difficult ones because you have to start knowing the not basic science, but like just basic like anatomies and the origins of what you hear, and then translate it what you hear into a visual cue in your head to see where the problem could be coming from, and then identifying and correctly addressing it. So those are the ones that can get messy in terms of like or how to tackle it, because you could do one way and then hopefully it works, or the way you picked isn't the right path and nothing seems to work, and you just have no idea unless so that's
Right.
always been more difficult to see the ones, and you always kind of doubt. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure it's this, but nothing's working, and sometimes the things you do don't work. um
Right. Right. You
and,
got to
uh,
change. Yeah.
and you just have to kind of accept the fact that whatever you do at this point, there's not much you can do to help. So you try not to feel like a complete failure at it, but uh,
Yeah, yeah, but quick decision making, you're taking in information, you're making some quick triage decisions and, are you seeing so we kind of mentioned so right now you are doing more sports and conferences or are you still in the emergency room?
so I actually have started my own business when it comes to this. So like I said earlier before, this business isn't sorry, the trying to be an EMS isn't makes a lot of money. So I thought, well, how can I make money off of this a little bit better? And then starting my own business was the answer to this. And my business is called Epsilon Medical Solutions. Is we started back in 2022, and so what we do now is that basically everything I've done in the last decade or so, learning how to do first aid and assessing injuries and um, triaging as well, we now apply it to more of a private setting, to where I would go to these events and I will set up an aid station, a medical tent, and then I will basically act like an ambulance or a rescue team, and then just kind of disperse care that way. And then I would just hire. I don't have a set employee crew. I just have a roster of qualified individuals who are EMTs or medics who have their jobs of their own around the city. And I bring at least two EMTs or two medics to these areas, and then we just set up care. And then the way we specialize in this is that we don't transport like most ambulance companies would, but we do remain on station, and we're always there for the patrons, for the clients, for the customers that come through, and or people who are involved with the event. And we're just constantly there, and we're just dishing out care. And if anything was to get worse, we would still know how to handle that. We would just continue our care and then call in a rescue for transport to a hospital. But in the meantime, there's always somebody qualified with the correct knowledge and the correct experience to handle what needs to be handled. And then it takes off all the pressures and um, making sure that things are being done that can be done on scene. So that way, like, it doesn't look like nobody knows what they're doing. And that
Right,
usually
right.
brings
I mean, nobody is hoping that there happens to be a doctor nearby. I think
correct.
being somebody that's been to, a lot of conferences and with my children, a lot of sporting events, I keep an eye on where that table's located. Just so you may not think people are looking to see where your company is located, but this mom and me personally always looks to see if there is someone on site. I think it's really, really vital because, when you're in that moment, when you're at a tournament or when something happens, um, it can I mean, it can escalate very quickly and you don't have time to do that, where's the doctor or anybody else, knowing that, where that table is, getting somebody to run over to where that table is or where that station is set up and bring somebody onto the field or at a conference. I mean, I have seen people pass out at a professional conference and
Hmm.
you don't know, you're not in the heat, you're at a professional conference, and you've seen somebody just kind of collapse and you're like, "Oh my gosh." And so it's nice to have that station. And of course, I imagine you have to make a plan when you go in, like you mentioned, you bring some staff, but also like where you're going to be located within that event. I imagine it changes with each event that you set up or each
Correct. Yeah. So we
conference you set
usually
up.
will work with our clients in terms of like, all right, so where do you want us to be at? 'Cause, like, these are events that you guys run all the time, and that you have a better idea of where most of the instances would occur or where the most visibility would be. I can come in and make an assessment myself and make a suggestion based on my experiences. But usually we like to like work with the client to kind of make sure that they have that. So
Right.
that way we are both visible and also accessible to problematic areas or areas with potential for injuries. And so by making those decisions with the client, then we are ready to set up. And then most of our setups that we have so far have worked out pretty great in terms of responding and accepting uh, uh, injuries and all that, and treating them in our areas. And the way we have our tent set up, it depends on the location too as well. We have a basic tent that we just set up just for intake. We have like a little exam bed that we can kind of look at, or then for the bigger, longer events, we'll set up a bigger tent that might have more of a recovery area. We try to put an AC in there so we can keep it cool down.
Oh,
Or
wow. This is big.
yeah. So um, I'm a what you call a bit of a squirrel in the EMS field.
Okay.
I get make fun of it for a lot. Squirrel in terms of like someone who is like overly excited on how to do this job, and they call me a squirrel because I used to carry on a like a Batman like belt on me.
Okay.
I've always been like this since I started the industry, and people were like, "Why are you wearing that? You must be brand new." I'm like, "Yes, I am brand new, but I just have all this belt stuff." And the belt has only grown since I started back in 2000 and I want to say 12 when I first became an EMT. Uh, and the belt has only grown, and people just look at me like, "Why? Why do you have all that stuff?" I was like, "Well, because I like to know where all my tools are at, and then I can just
Right.
go for it." You know?
No, it's your
Um,
superhero costume. That's what it
kind, kind of,
Yeah,
kind of.
you're the EMS guy, like, you're the EMS guy, like,
I get called,
EpiPen, got it.
yeah, right. They call me a Batman for a reason sometimes because this kind of these things on my belts. I don't care a lot of like crazy stuff, but like it's just stuff like that I know at the top of my head if something happens, I just grab it, and they call me a squirrel for that, and which is fine because when an emergency happens and they're looking for a nut, they know who to ask because the squirrel's right there with all the nuts.
That's
um,
right. So what do you have? What does your belt have?
so on my belt currently, right now, I have. starting from my right side. It will go into a little pouch that hangs off the belt that holds a pulse ox. A pulse oximeter is a little device you put on your finger that would tell you your heart rate and also tell me what level oxygen, what percentage of oxygen is in your blood right now. So like, um, it usually should be in 100%, 95% to 100%, and it's telling me that reading right off the bat. And then moving on, I got my trauma shears in the holster. It's a really expensive, fancy one that costs $70.
Oh, wow.
People in the field know what it's called. It's called the Raptor shears, and they know it. So it's right there. Then you go back, and then I have a flashlight there, and then a radio pouch if I have a radio for these events. Then going back where there's like a large pouch that folds up that can unroll and becomes a dump pouch, so I can like put stuff in there randomly if I needed to. I needed some extra storage. I can just roll it out in like this little bag that hangs from the back.
Oh, okay.
I think my initial was like if I come across like an appendage, I can just stuff it back there or something, or just stuff it with other things. I don't know. It's just the bag can be used for multiple purposes for whatever it is. And then
Right.
continue on the back, you'll feel there'll be a little pouch full of gloves, so that way I can just reach back there, grab a pair out, and then keep going. There should be one that has a uh, this one has a tape measure in it, a little pouch that has a tape measure, so I can just do quick measurements if I needed to. And then there's a pouch for gauze and tape, and another smaller pouch that has Narcan in it.
Narcan. Okay.
Yeah, and that's just the belt itself. And then my pockets would be filled with other things if need be, more gauze or saline flushes that I might keep in my pockets. Um, but that's what I carry on a daily basis. You would never see another EMT or medic carry this, or if you do, they're very very rare and they're very squirrely as well. I've seen a guy with same similar setup with a thigh bag attached to his thigh, which I thought was pretty cool. But of course, everyone else was making fun of him. But I feel like
Why? Why? I mean, if somebody's gonna take care of me, I prefer the guy with the pouch. Like I'll take the guy with the thigh bag, but give me the guy
I
with the
feel like
full belt, tool belt. Come on.
that's where the industry should be headed towards to, where we should see this enthusiasm and embrace it and celebrate it. Um, I think what I'm starting to see a lot in this. Well, actually, let me get to that in a second. But uh, what I want to point out, the reason why I'm squirrely, is because I feel like that has prepared me better to create a business out of it. Um,
Right.
because now that I have to create everything from scratch, so a lot of EMTs and medics, when they go to work, they don't have to worry about anything because they just get on a truck and they know all the stuff is there. They check it off and they go. Creating a business from the ground up, I have to make sure that stuff is there. So
Mhm.
I need to be always constantly thinking about what does the crew need? What does the crew need to operate? What does the crowd need? Like, how am I going to answer the demands of a crowd that might encounter medical emergencies? I have to be the one to make sure that all my bags are stocked with that. All my employees that now have access to it knows it's going to be there, and that so when an emergency happens, they can do their job. Uh,
Right.
because I'm always constantly thinking about this, even when I was on the job before, and just making it more accessible on my belt, I'm able to do this business very well. Like it's never been from day one. I've never had a problem with, oh, I don't have that, and I come up with over an emergency. It's like, well, we can't really do anything about that except call 911. There's always been something that I could do, and I think a lot of my employees were like, well, that's why you're squirrely, and that's why this works out because now you actually have the ability to create this out of thin air and have
Yeah.
everything right off the bat. I mean, that comes with the years of experience too, as well. But like, because I'm so squirrely, I see what needs to be done. I can see project what's going to happen in the future, and I just have it ready. So my trauma bags that might be a little bit more stocked and have more things in it than a typical trauma bag because I'm already thinking about what we could be encountering, and of course, we don't have an ambulance, so I need to make sure that things that normally are carried in compartments of an ambulance is still accessible to me and my guys. So I think
Yeah.
that's really helped me
I
a
mean, it's
lot.
all yeah, I mean, it's all part of the you don't have the ambulance with you. I mean,
Right.
and then Um, Tell me, with some of these conferences, when you're doing the assessments of what can happen, I mean, it's amazing you just have a belt and you don't have a belt, a backpack, something on your shoe. Like a lot of things can happen. People think some of these, that this like something doesn't happen a lot, but first of all, sporting events, I mean, you should just assume that somebody's gonna end up with a concussion or a broken bone, but, what's kind of the craziest thing that you've come along and very prepared as you are, that, you had one of those conferences that you just couldn't believe. You had so many things happen, or, a sporting event where you had so many things happen. It was a good thing that you had this very well equipped belt.
Um, well, in terms of the belt, I would have to say anytime we're involved with anything that's pretty serious, it could be like a cardiac arrest or like a trauma event. Um, Even if just based on one person, I'm there basically next to the person and I'm just dishing out supplies instead of people are scrambling around to find it. So
Right.
I find it that it's easier for me to just go ahead and just hand out supplies as I go along, so I know where everything is. And when people are looking for stuff, they get this frantic scramble, right? I call it like the chicken run, because we were just like scrambling. Oh, where's the stuff? Like they know where it is, but they're just trying to dig through it and grab it. And meanwhile, I'm just like, pick. Here you go. Here you go.
Yeah,
Here's your
yeah.
back pocket. Here it
They're
is.
like Jason. They're like, "Jason, hand it to me. Jason,
Not
go
saying
into
they
your
can't do their
underpants."
jobs without me. They sure can, but I do take off precious seconds off, and I'm just like, here it is. Go ahead. Go. Um, it's always,
Kinda like a conductor though, in a way, and then I
I feel like
imagine that, like, the people that work with you really are thankful that and the people who are hurt, I mean, seconds matter. Seconds really matter. You do not want somebody scrambling to find, what is it? Is it Narcan?
Narcan
I
or
mean,
simple
Narcan or
gauze, really.
EpiPen, and
Yeah.
an EpiPen, or anything, that's kind of vital to a quick react. You need to do that. You need to administer that right now. That's
Mhm.
where the seconds matter. So, have you had to do, like, an EpiPen at an event?
So we haven't had to do an EpiPen at my events that I've covered.
Mhm.
We, but I have done it in the field before I started the business before, and then usually we would have to draw up the epi and syringes because the way a lot of EMS companies will have their epinephrine packaged is not in the auto injectors that you would see that most people will
Oh.
carry. Yeah, you have they come in vials, and we had to break them and put them in syringes, put them in a little needle, and then administer it that way. So it's a lot
Oh.
slower in terms of us getting to those supplies. And because auto injectors are just crazy expensive. I mean, that's a whole
Oh,
conversation
okay.
topic about medication pricing and farmers, big pharma, just you know, putting all these outrageous prices. But so it's also often cheaper for EMS companies to stock those epinephrines in little vials that we have to draw up and then administer through the scan and all that, or through IVs, depending on the situations. Um, so we've had to give that a few times. And then, of course, you're doing this when the patient is in distress, right? And you
Right,
do what you can
right.
to keep them calm, and you just um, I think the biggest thing that helped me out because I started this career with the idea of like I want to go and help people. I want to make sure I can be of service and be there for people. But a lot of times you kind of have to like you see them freaking out. You see these patients are in distress. They're angry. They're frustrated. They're scared, and they will lash out. And they want results right now because this is their emergency. And then you just feel kind of like what do I, I'm working, I'm doing my best. Things are just,
Right.
all over the place, right? I think one of the most important advice I ever got when I was doing my trainings for those programs was that I think I had an old grizzly firefighter tell me, say, hey, remember, this isn't your problem. And as callous as that sounds, like it's not meant to be callous. It's meant to, so that way you are calm in the face of these adversities, because it's true. It's not your emergency. It's not your emergency, right?
Right, right.
You have a
You can
job,
remain calm. Right, you have
right?
a job to do.
You have
Yeah.
a job to do, and that, yes, like, don't not care about your patients. That's not what the advice means. While it's not your problem, it's that this is not your own personal emergency. So you can take a step back, be removed from the situation, so you're not emotional about it, because the killer to decisive decisions is emotions. Um,
Right. Right.
so you have to remove yourself emotionally. This is not your problem. You're doing what you can to help, and whatever you do is only going to help them. Timing is, because the more you freak out, the more time you're going to be adding to what you'll be doing, because you're not concentrating. And this patient may remind you of your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your significant other, whatever it is. They're not them. They may look like them. They may have the same similar cases like them, but they are not them. So it's not your problem. And
Right.
so
Right.
a lot of things that I hear from newer EMTs or new medics, when they encounter these things, like, oh man, that reminded me so much of my parent, and they're freaking out about it and they're crying. And it's like, I wish I could have done more. It's like, I think you did all you could do, and you just have to remember, it's not your problem. That wasn't your grandma. That wasn't your mom, and you didn't fail them. Whether they died or not, it's not. That's not the point. Like, I mean, we can only do so much, and you just had to do what you got to do, and then not worry about it, because it wasn't yours to begin with. I think
Right.
that's
Well, that's interesting. I mean, you don't think about it that way. I think it takes a person to be able to you do have to kind of put a little bit of a shield there, right? So
Mhm.
that you can take in the important information and sort of think look at the big picture, because if you put yourself where they are in their experience, then there's no way you could think. There is absolutely no way that you could think. I mean, there's no way that you could administer anything. So yeah, that makes I mean, it does make sense to me. And I guess it also makes sense why when I took that college class, they had somebody sort of chatting and talking in our ear like okay well and very much it was like I've got a job to do it and you know the environment seemed so real. I mean, I know there were little mannequins laying all around and it was a final, but the environment felt so real that like once I got started I very much felt like I want 4 out of 5 of the I need 4 out of the 5 of these people I need all these people to live, right? And so I need to work through the worst, 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 and then get to the last case to make sure that, as I saved as many people as possible, and I had no time to look at the mannequin with brown hair and be like, "That looks like my mom, and that looks like my dad." It was like person 1, person 2, person 3. I'm going, 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 making very, very, very quick decisions. I did move somebody the wrong way. I think it was like a baby or something. I mean, there were babies in there. This is insane. Like, did
Yeah.
you take a class like this, or am I the only fool that signed up for like a
So
traumatic first aid class
honestly,
when I
I wish
wasn't even in I was in medical,
I
I
re-
wasn't in
I
anything
really
medical.
wish that everybody takes a course similar to yours.
Yeah.
I've often catching myself say, like, I wish people would just take the EMT to learn how to be an EMT, just to take the course. Whether you use it or not, it doesn't matter, because it will give you life skills for the rest of your life. You will see a facet of life that no one really thinks about until you need it. And it just gives you a better insight of what goes on. And you know, I've had taken a course that had offered like that too as well, and I wish I had more opportunities to offer those courses. In fact, that's probably one of my next ambitious move, is to create a course to where I could put people like what you went through, and then they get to see for themselves how that operates, because then they understand more of it, right? Um, to get that exposure is important to understand how things work, because people just don't think about it. And then
Well, but I think now that, people are seeing that, I mean, sometimes some people get hurt at a at a concert,
Mhm.
right? Recently, obviously, the news recently, you're out somewhere and, if somebody hears a loud noise, there can be sort of like a
um,
stampede thing
man,
happening.
that's right.
And so you need to know how to be able to react to these emergency situations and be able to triage people that are around you. And then also a little bit of being able to triage yourself. I would imagine that if you got hurt with your pouch on, you'd be just fine.
You gotta be like, dang it,
Yeah, let me
it's
just
more of an
wrap this up.
inconvenience.
Well,
Like,
when you think
oh,
about
I'm hurt.
where this all first started, when you mentioned, your first decision to kind of go into this field, it did sort of start with you trying to figure out a solution for yourself, and then
Right.
you just kind of were like, "Hey,
Snowball from there.
more people need this solution, so here I
Right.
am," right? And every event I would think, I don't know if this is required by law, but it seems like every event should have a nursing station. Is there some kind of compliance
There's
or
no
something
compliance.
around this? Or is this dependent on, conference and event planners, they choose whether to have it?
So that's another thing that I've been trying to convince people of, especially starting my own business, and now I kind of rely on it now. Is that when people create their events, the event planners that's build their events, they will always think about security because there's always going to be a concern of that. Um, but a lot of times the medical side gets left out, mostly because they don't think it's going to happen. The event of a social unrest might occur, so they want security, they want the police there, and they can handle that. But when it comes to medical side, they don't really count on that happening. So even for some sporting events too, like a lot of games like lacrosse or soccer, they won't consider a medical ambulance. Now for soccer, I understand that because it's more of a very short game, and I think soccer lasts for like a total of 90 minutes straight. That's with even with the
Oh,
timeouts. There's no stopping that clock, unlike like football. But even with football too, there is no state legislation that requires a EMS type of coverage at all the games. So
that
you
really surprises me
yeah.
because I mean, I've watched a lot of soccer games and I've seen people get headbutt. You go to head the ball and you head someone's nose instead, and the nose can bleed quite a lot. And so there's that. Then, of course, there's always the concern about concussions, and I've known goalkeepers that have gone for the ball and literally hit their head on the side of the goalpost. And, people have run out there. Most I would say in Jacksonville, it does seem like soccer does have some good coverage with some staff there. I don't know if you've worked one of those events, but they're there. And then football scares me to death at times.
Hmm.
And the crazy thing is, at a sporting event, if you're really a fan, you're like, take them down. And then when someone goes down and we're pausing the game because somebody really legitimately got like hit really hard, especially in football, and hit really hard, you have that moment of, okay, oh no, like I really hope this works out um for the best. So
And you
you
hope
need
that
your
somebody
services.
trained who knows what they're doing is out there doing their things.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. And I don't know what you do about moms. Have you had any moms hovering over children that you've had to
that's
triage?
where I'm grateful for security and law enforcement because they tend to help us keep the crowd back, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if that was to happen, then of course, yeah, we need to remove the frantic, crazy mom who not crazy, the worried parent, right? I mean, I would go nuts too. I would go crazy if my child was hurt. So
Oh, yeah. No,
you
I
know,
used to get that look from my son, like, "Don't you dare run onto the field. Like,
yeah,
don't do it. And then my husband being the coach, he would give me the signal, like, don't be uncool. Like,
Yeah.
don't run onto the field. Like, let the medics run onto the field, and then I'll give
Let
you,
us do our
a
job.
thumbs up, thumbs down type of thing. But I'm like, hey, I took a first aid course. I triaged a bunch of people in a imaginary car accident. I think I've lost that skill. In fact, I almost want to say that this sounds like a skill uh that if you're not practicing it, you probably need a refresher course for those people that are just, you mentioned before that we kind of all should take one of these classes. But what would you say, like, give me a few, like, just things that I should probably know when it comes to triaging somebody and sort of making those first critical decisions. What are those?
Well, I would say triaging wouldn't be the first thing I would tell people to do. The first things I would tell people to do is learn how to control bleeds. Once you know how to
Okay.
do that, the science behind how to control bleed, um, you would be a tremendous help right off the bat. And then knowing proper CPR courses, how to administer CPR, because we have found through research from multiple agencies that the sooner you see somebody collapse from a cardiac arrest and the sooner you start compressions, the more chance this person now has to survive.
Are you
Um,
seeing an increase in that lately? It feels like it is. I
cardiac
don't know why.
arrests.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's been a giant increase of cardiac arrests. We're seeing a lot more successful conversions of cardiac arrests.
Oh, good.
I think mostly because we've been the information of people trying to learn how to do CPR is increasing out there, but it's still not to the volume where we would like it to be. And so another facet of the company that I do want to eventually branch into is teaching how to do CPR. And I feel like the general population should learn how to do CPR just to have that skill. And then that one, you don't need a whole class. You can just take a simple 2, 3 hour, 4 hour course and then have it for the next 2 years. Um, and what I will also do offer in that course too is learn how to do bleeding controls, how to stop someone from bleeding out. And then you can use anything. You don't have to use gauze. You can use whatever you have access to, and then that can just do it. And that alone will increase a person's survival, you know, by a lot. Instead of just kind of like standing there freaking out, like, I don't know what to do. You're dying. It's like, okay, well, do something about it.
Right, right,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think the main thing is you need to get to it, right? You can't
correct.
let yourself be sort of stuck in that moment and not
And
performing some kind of an action, right?
and I wouldn't feel bad because I know you said that you took this course many years ago, and that you're afraid that you might get rusty and you kind of forget. But I think because you took this course, and then when you do get a little bit distressed over your own kids, you kind of do when you get the reminder to like cool down and chill, and then you kind of remember what you went through. It's like, okay, I know what's happening, and you see people doing things. You see the medics come on and do their thing, and that would remind you, like, oh, that's what I had to go through. So now I understand what the process looks like and how that looks like. Then you're a lot more calm. Versus someone who's never been through that course and looking at they have no idea what they're saying, and then they're just going, "Oh, I have no idea," like, and you're just
Right,
making it up,
right.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, it's also really important to, give the professionals space, right? It's not the time to start asking them questions. Like, let them focus on what needs to happen
It's
at
not even
hand.
about the questions. Like, well, yeah, the questions part can get pretty distracting, and we have to kind of stop our care to answer those questions. But what I see a lot, and I'm sure a lot of medics will agree with me here, is that the emotions that is being portrayed during these events do
Mhm.
not help the situation. If
Oh.
you are frantic, if you are scared, if you are um, just trying to look for help, and you're right there next to the person who is injured, you're only making the situation worse. And so
Right.
we find that if we remove that person away from this stressful environment, they have better chances to recover or to so that we can do our jobs more effectively. It's the negative energy upon negative energy that actually really messes everything up for us, and then we try to remove that out of the equation as best as possible. Um, so, but if we see a parent who is like, calm and collected and just wants to be next to their kid, we'll let them step forward and be with them, because sometimes that could be a comforting care for that. But if they're equally as frantic or fearful as the patient itself, they're like, no, no, negative. You got to step
Yeah,
away.
yeah. Well, you've heard it here from a medic, so I I wanna speak to all the, the parents, mothers, and, sometimes even friends and other people, good caring people who, if you're not calm, you step away.
Step away.
Step
100%.
away,
Step
step
away.
away.
Let us do our
Yeah,
job.
yes, yeah, step away, give a little distance, freak out over on the side. I totally understand that. I totally understand that. I could see that. I could see, somebody just kind of like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And you're like, "Okay, you're not the one that's hurt here." And so, step aside. So yeah, I think about gosh, I just think about, uh, you know, the worst to me, I think one of the things that you wouldn't have a problem having me leave the scene is broken bones. Even on television when you are watching a football game and they play that replay
Yeah.
of just slow motion, broken bone, the bone has to go somewhere in a different direction than where it is going. I mean, I do not know. I think it takes a special person like you to be able to run in and be like, "Okay, I can look at that face to face." But me, no. I'm like, I shield my eyes. I'm like, "No." Even in movies when I know it's fake, even in movies, and especially we talk a lot about apocalyptic movies. I mean, we went through 2020, so yeah,
Yeah.
pandemics
Close
and
enough.
things can happen, right? So, I think about those movies and I think about, what are my chances of survival in an apocalyptic situation? And all I can think about is, oh no, in those movies when someone is trying to run away, they notoriously twist an ankle or break a bone and it's pretty gross. It also gets infected because, like, nobody knows how to treat it, right? Nobody is equipped to know how to treat it, at least, for dramatic effect in the movies. And, you know, I think maybe that would encourage people to take a first aid class. Like, what you could do is you could, for your company, you could be like, "Okay, picture yourself in this type of situation and, come to this 1-hour class, and you may have a better chance of survival."
Right. You know,
If you know how to avoid infection, you know how to wrap something, you know how to splint something, stop bleeding, CPR. You don't, not everybody's going to walk around with Narcan and an EpiPen, but being able to use materials around you. I think that'd be a really great class. Maybe you should decide to do that
oh
in
yeah.
addition to everything else
That's most
you're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely on the books to do next, because education is a big part of my repertoire here, because not only did I do the EMS part, I also teach at a local EMS institution. I teach EMTs and medic students how to do skills and all that. I don't lead a full on class just yet, but I'm very passionate about teaching what I know to the next generations and so on and so forth. Teaching is a big passion of mine, and I do want to distribute this information to the public. And I'm not looking to um, I just want to get that information into the public's hand. That we can the next step is to like tackle on a nice program to where I can teach them basic skills, how to stop a bleed, put a tourniquet on, or fashion a tourniquet somehow, and then learn how to do CPR, learn how to do it the right way. I think that would just be so helpful to everybody, and helpful to us first responders too as well, because then we can see somebody's doing something by the time we get to the scene. Because the moment you call 911 to the moment we get there is still about 10 to 15 minutes,
Right. Right.
at best speed, and that's not but in that 10 to 15 minutes, hopefully somebody's doing something. And
Right.
then and that's where also my company comes into place. If we're there, then we can take care of those 10 15 minutes and coordinate rescue efforts. That's even better. So there's ways to empower yourselves.
Yeah, so let's tell everybody how they can you send me some links? One of your business, how people can get in touch with you and get that station at one of their events so that all of the people attending their events are safe
Absolutely.
and can be cared for. And then got to get a picture of the belt. Okay. It's
Oh,
the
100%.
superhero outfit, with the belt. I think you should really add to it with maybe some color, or I got to see it first and then I'll give you some suggestions. But it is, you are the superhero on the scene. So the fact that you have a utility belt like Batman is pretty awesome. So if you could send me over a picture of that. But more importantly, I think any helpful links to inform people where they can find out how to get in touch with you, maybe create a class for their family or their friends or their corporations for their employees,
Hmm.
for you to teach them and empower them, because these decisions of when you need help are important, and how to behave. And I think one of the ones is decide to stay calm. Okay. We have to start there. We have to start with decide to stay calm. As the victim, you may not be able to, as the person who is being triaged, you may not be able to stay completely calm, but it's in your best interest if you can.
Correct.
Um, and honestly, when you do watch these, I'll say it again, I watch too many apocalyptic movies, but
I love it.
who are the people that end up in the worst scenario are those people that can't seem to remain calm and think. And so, that is just something that you don't need to be trained how to do. You just need to know that you have to decide to do that, and then reach out and try to find somebody who is better at triaging, a
Yeah.
medic nearby. But
Actually,
I do think if you go to an event, look for that station.
yeah.
It's really important to keep your eye on it. It's not because uh, you need to know where that station is, um, for your friends, for someone near you, so you can direct them there. You don't have to be like, elderly to be the person that keeps an eye on that station. I think all of us are starting to see where weird things are happening.
Yeah.
Somebody just dehydrates near you or something, that you need to know where that
And if you
station is.
don't, if you're at an event and you don't see a station, feel free to write them an email, be like, hey, you guys should have a station for us to go to, because I don't think it's a question of people being negligent in providing one. I think it's just people just don't think about it as often until something does happen, and then they're like, "Holy crap, we don't have anything for this." And they hope there's a doctor in the area, or a fellow firefighter or medic that can come and take care of the situation for them, but they themselves don't have a plan to deal with it because they don't often
Right.
think about it. So yeah, if you guys are out there and you go to an event and you don't see one, let them know. Say, hey, y'all really should do one. And if you don't know someone to contact, then you should contact this guy.
Yeah, contact Jason
Yes.
Chang. So how can they contact you? Tell them
So we
tell 'em
have
how
a
they can contact you.
we have our website. It's emsjax.com. Very simple. I'll send you the link. We have a contact form at the bottom of that website. It's really easy to get to, and then you just type us a message. We'll get it, and we'll get back to you. And we'll make some magic happen. It's It's fairly simple process. There's some pictures on there to see what our setup will look like too, as well. Some of the events that we've been to. So far, we covered a few Duval County schools, and UNF is also another big client of ours. During the springtime, we covered their track and field events, and we're hoping to get more clients as we come along. We did cover the wrestling convention here in 2000, this year and last year. This year was at the Roar Golf Village, so that was a fun little convention that we attended to see some, the pro wrestling,
Oh, wow.
WWE style like
Oh, was
wrestling
it
style.
really WWE? Are
Yeah,
you
but
serious?
it was like I don't think there were some stars from WWE that came as stars that came like to sign autographs and all that stuff. So yeah, it's in that style of wrestling. And I want to make sure it wasn't like the Olympic style of wrestling. I'm talking about like the WWE style wrestling that had a convention here in Jacksonville. River City Wrestling Con was what it was called. And that's one of our clients too as well. It was a lot of fun, and we got to see a lot of colorful characters come through and then do their thing, do their craft.
Yeah, yeah. My dad took me to go see Dusty Rhodes in person when
Oh
Dusty
yeah,
Rhodes was out there. So yeah, yeah. And they, take a chair and they hit somebody over the head with it. Yeah, you should definitely have a first aid station. You should definitely have a medic nearby in a wrestling, even high school wrestling. I've seen some things and some people get hurt
yeah,
and
the nosebleeds and
dislocated shoulders and all kinds of things like that as well. So
I
so
also hope that too that this would also encourage people to come become EMTs and medics, or even just take the course, because it's important for people to be out there to be knowledgeable and know how to do this job. And we need more passionate people who are about this field. I used to joke to all my classes when I introduced myself, like I'm the only Chinese paramedic in the whole Duval County region, Northeast Florida region. I'm pretty sure, because I don't think I know another Chinese paramedic out there or a Chinese person in EMS. There usually are doctors or surgeons. I'm the only
oh,
one on the first responder side. So there are more Chinese people out there who want to be in the EMS field with me. That I'd be gratefully grateful, because I don't want to be the only one here anymore. It's
yeah.
lonely. That's the only
Yeah.
minority, the
Well,
Chinese minority
I will
here.
tell you, you're very passionate about it, and that's what I love. So if somebody's thinking about a major right now and they're thinking about uh studying and becoming a medic, what would you say? What are
I would
like the key decisions they need to make if they're deciding to do this, what do they need to know?
That's the beautiful thing about being an EMT. You don't need to have a major in it. This is a certification course. This is
Okay.
a technical school level. The EMT courses runs about 3 to 6 months, depending on which program you pick. The medic might run a little longer, in terms of like 13 months. But just being an EMT, you can do this in conjunction with your college degree. In fact, that's what I did. Was in the summer between my freshman and sophomore years, I actually went to became an sorry, summer between my sophomore and junior year of college, I was at Florida State University. I went home to Jacksonville for the summer to take the EMT program. And by the time I was done with that, school was starting back up in FSU. I went back to FSU, studied my major, and then got a job as an EMT, and was able to do work, you know, doing school and working as an EMT, and then getting all these incredible experiences as a young person while still going to school. So
Wow.
then I had two options. I can either go into the major that I was trying to go into, which was uh, law enforcement. But then I decided to stick with my EMS, and I just picked this path instead. This gives you another avenue. It gave me an opportunity to explore if I really want to become a nurse or a doctor. I realized that it was not for me, but I've known a lot of my friends who went EMT medic, and they said, "No, I really want to be a PA now. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor, and I would really want to put the dime into this, because I see this, on this side, and I see what they do on the other side, and I really like that, and I want to go for that." But for me personally, I saw what the other side did, and like, I'm good. I'm good right here.
Right,
But
right.
this exposes you to all these fields. And then I had other friends that would see this and they say, well, actually, I might want to go X-ray school, or I want to go to um, pre-op and then help be an esthetician, or be a surgical aid and all that. So there's just being an EMT just opens so many more doors and exposes you to so much more opportunities that I feel like people could benefit from, and things that you may never thought you may want to do, you may now want to consider now. So it's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing, and I hope
Yeah,
that
I
my
think it's a
passion
good
will.
it sounds like it's a great starting point if you're someone who, wants to take care of people in the medical profession. And it almost seems like everyone should start as an EMT and then decide where to go from there. I know some people, are thinking about, being a doctor right off
Right.
the bat, but it seems like even doctors should start at the EMT level and then, go
See if
and
they actually like
pursue.
it or not before they
Yeah,
sink
yeah, see
thousands
what they like.
of dollars into something that they end up hating. They can get a nice first-hand look to see if this is really the way you want to go. And then I believe AMT school is like maybe around the $2,500 mark at this point. I'm not sure. I don't really look at tuition. I think when I went to school back in 2010, it was $1,000. I'm sure that has jumped since then.
Yeah, that actually is a really great value. That
Yeah,
sounds
it's
really great for
and
somebody
there's
who's really not quite kind of sure which part of the medical profession they want to go into. I mean, what is $1,000 before you spend $150,000?
right, or $3,000, whatever the tuition is now. And there's even grants out there. I know like WorkSource, Career Source of Florida, they offer statewide grants to apply to technical schools, and EMS is one of those programs. So there's a possibility people don't even have to pay for it.
Oh,
So
okay, that's even better. I
yeah,
like
even
that.
better. Yeah. So, but even if you don't do anything with the EMS field, just to get an exposure to it would be nice. And then hopefully in the future, I'll offer courses that will give you that exposure without being committing to a 3-month, 6-month contract to go to school. That'd be even better. But hopefully, if anybody was on the fence about joining EMS or just being an EMT, going to EMT school, I hope this will clear that up and let them come in. I feel like it's a great opportunity, and I think people with ADHD might even excel in this field too.
I'm starting to
You
think
know,
so, yes. Yes, I am starting to think that because they need that variety of things,
right?
being, different every single day, and then almost that adrenaline rush of, I'm okay with making decisions. I can totally focus in when, you're in an emergency situation. That's really good for ADD people. So lots of us out there, I'm
Yeah,
a
I was listening to your
self
story, and I was like, yeah, that
diagnosed
actually makes
one.
sense.
Yeah, I definitely am a self-diagnosed one. I love your passion, and I think that anyone who is thinking about going to this field, is it okay if they reach out and if they have any questions
Yeah,
and
if
reach
they
out
have
to
any
you?
questions, they want to ask me what it's like to be an EMT and going to medical school. Yeah, absolutely. They can same link will link to it, and they can ask to talk to me, and I'll be more than happy to respond and help them out with that path. Because there's a lot to consider, and I'm always eager to help out new people who want to come into the field, because I'm very passionate about this, and the more people I can help acquire this path, the better as well.
Well, it started with a Band-Aid.
And now I have a whole company
And
behind me.
now you have a whole company and a super utility medic belt. Love it.
Yes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for coming back on Decision Diaries. I appreciate it. If you could think of another decision you want to talk about, happy to have you back on again. You're so good at this. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Please go up to decisiondiaries.com and subscribe to the podcast. And if you go to decisiondiaries.com, you will get some helpful information from Jason. And I hope that you are inspired to, at a minimum, learn how to help in a first aid situation and get some first aid first aid knowledge out there on how to triage anyone that needs help. Thank you again.
Thank you, Len. Thanks for having me.
Decision Diaries. So neat.